morning, everybody. We're going to today do a initial lesson. We hope to start doing these on a regular basis. So you need to be watching on the classroom. Look for new lessons. We'll be posting pretty much every day. So if you look for them, we're still trying this out. It's a brand new concept for us. So you just need to watch and see. Hopefully they will be under 30 minutes, okay? So hopefully that will be something that will help you. Today we are going to record this one and it will be available for you later today. So if you have any questions based on what I show you today, then by all means post them, and we'll try to have a live video later in the week, probably the end of the week, where you can also post questions at that time. So consider seriously watching the classroom announcements in the stream to see what's going on, okay? Now, with that, I'm going to get started. The first thing I'm going to do today is dealing with decimals. And watching the people that are actually participating in the classroom online, I have several people that have had difficulties with decimals in different versions and forms. So what we're going to do today is look at some of the hacks, some of the simple ways to approach decimals, and hopefully take the feeling of stress that a lot of people have when they see a decimal, okay? It should not be that way, and hopefully we can fix that for you. And with that, we're going to start with the simplest. We're going to start with adding and subtracting decimals, okay? And when you add and subtract decimals, it's basically the same thing as adding and subtracting whole numbers. There's only one real difference, and that is the decimal, okay? So we're going to start with a practice problem so that I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write these problems out horizontally, which means side by side on a line, so that you have to, one of the things you have to do is convert it to vertical, because that's the easiest way to work them. All right, but if you can convert them, then they're already vertical, then you don't have to worry about that. So we're going to go ahead and cover both those kinds of things at the same time. All right, the first problem we're going to do is one of the simpler type. Okay, this problem is 800.52, excuse me, 0.54 plus 90.52. All right, now if this was written horizontally, it'd be written 800.54 plus 90.52. Notice that I put the first number that's listed here on top. I put the second number on the bottom. Now in addition, it doesn't really matter, but it matters in subtraction. It matters in division, how you approach the numbers. So we're just going to use this as a rule. This is a simple shortcut, a simple hack, so you don't have to try to remember which ones you can flip-flop and which ones you can't. Always, in an addition or subtraction problem, if it is given to you horizontally, in other words, in a straight line, then always put the first number on top and the second number on the bottom. The second thing that you have to do is you have to line up the numbers based on where the decimal is. Now on these two, it's very simple because you have the same number of digits to the right of the decimal. So it comes out even, okay? But that won't always be the case. So we're going to start with the simpler one first and then go from there. Okay, so now you're going to treat this exactly the same as adding two whole numbers. And by that I mean you're going to go through the same steps. You're going to start on the right-hand side with your column most furthest to the right. And you're going to add the two digits there. So 4 plus 2 is 6. Okay, there's nothing to carry, it's just 6. And we move over to the next set, or the next line. So we have 5 plus 5, which is 10. So we write down our 0 and carry our 1. All right, then we have 0 plus 0 plus the 1 we carried. So we have 1. 0 plus 9 is 9. 8 plus nothing is 8. Now, the only question we have to answer is, where does the decimal go? In addition and subtraction, as long as you've lined it up properly with the decimal immediately under in the same location for both numbers, they're lined up, then you just continue to line it up in your answer. okay? You just continue to line it up. So the first thing is, remember, we have to line up the numbers so that the decimal in each number is directly underneath one another. And then you simply continue to line up that decimal in the same location. All right, let's do another one that's a little bit different. All right, let's do 343.4 plus 5.607. Now remember, the first thing we said was we put the first number on top. So we're going to put 343.4 on top. Now, here's the tricky part. Remember what we said, you line up the decimals. So in this number, your first digit is just one place to the left of the decimal. So one place to the left of the decimal is 3 here. So we want to put the 5 under this 3. So we've got 5.607. Now, here's part of our problem. What do we add that to? Well, we don't have anything up here. All right, in any number, okay, if it includes a decimal place, you can add zeros to the right to whole places, or if needed, to the left to whole places. Okay, they don't change the value of the number as long as to the right of the decimal, you're adding them at the end, okay, of any numbers already listed. 0.4 and 0.400 are exactly the same value. You can also add them to the left of the decimal in front of whatever the first digit is that you have. And again, 005 is the same thing as 5. So you're not changing the value by doing that, but it gives you numbers that line up so that it makes it easier to add. Later, it also helps to subtract. Okay, so now we've got digits in every place on every line, and so we simply add. 0 plus 7 is 7, 0 plus 0 is 0, 4 plus 6 is 10, so 0 there and carry our 1. Notice it doesn't matter, it's crossing the decimal. You treat it just as if the decimal is not there. So now we have 3 plus 5 is 8, plus the 1 we carried makes 9. 4 plus 0 is 4. 3 plus 0 is 3. Now we go back and put our decimal in. In addition, you line up the decimal with the problem. So it's going to go right underneath where the other two decimals were. And that's your final answer, 349.007. Okay? That one's a little bit different. All right, let's do one more in your addition. All right, this one is a little bit different too. This one is 384.94 plus 17.348. Okay? So we're going to go, remember we put the first one on the top. So 384.94, and then we put the second one below it, but we've got to look. The first number on the left is 2 places to the left of the decimal. So over here we want to go 2 places to the left of the decimal to line up. So I put my 1 there and my 7 there. All right, 0.348. Now, all right, remember, you've got to line up the decimals. One mistake people tend to make when they forget that they're working in decimals is they want to line up the right-hand line, the right numbers, right underneath each other. You can't do that when you're adding or subtracting decimals. You have to line the numbers up by the decimal place. Then if you need to put in zeros to help you, that's fine, as long as it's on either end of the number. So here we can go back and put a 0 in here if it helps you. You can put a 0 in here if it helps you. Remember, on the front or on the back? On the back, on the front, you can add zeros, okay? You just can't stick them in between existing numbers. You can't stick them in between the decimal and a number. Front or back, beginning or end. All right, so now we're set up, and we just add. 0 plus 8 is 8. 4 plus 4 is 8. 9 plus 3 is 12, carry our 1. 7 plus 4 is 11, plus 1 is 12, carry our 1. 8 plus 1 is 9, plus our 1 carried is 10, carry our 1. 3 plus 0 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Last thing, put our decimal in, it just lines up, and you have your answer. Now, subtraction works the same way, okay? So we're going to do some subtraction problems. Remember, if you have any questions with what we're showing you, if you will post them, all right, send us an email, you can put it in the stream, any of those kinds of things, then we will be happy to answer you, okay? All right, so let's look at some subtraction problems, okay? Excuse me. The first one we want to do is 94.9 minus 41.871. Now, we're going to approach this exactly the same way as we did the addition, because remember we were talking about hacks just a second ago. If you will always, when the problem is presented to you horizontally or in a straight line, in order to work it, you need to put it vertical. But you always put the first number on top, okay? So we're going to go over here and do our subtraction now. 94.9 minus, now remember the other thing is we want to line up the decimal, okay? So if our decimal is here, all right, then we've got two numbers in front of it, 41, and we've got three numbers behind it, 871. 871. Notice I put the 8 under the 9 because that's the first digit to the right of the decimal. Okay, now we're subtracting. So a while ago we were adding the zeros at the end to make it easier. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to add two zeros up here because there are two more digits in the number below. Now that gives us something to subtract from. That's much more important subtraction than it is an addition. But if you do it all the time, then it's easier to remember to do it when it's subtraction. All right, so here we go. Now you've got a second problem that's the same thing that you do with whole numbers. If you are subtracting a larger number from a smaller number, you have to borrow. You can't flip-flop them. And that's one of the problems I see people doing. When they see this problem, they want to subtract 0 from 1. No, you've got to subtract the bottom number from the top number. So here, since 1 is bigger than 0, we have to borrow, okay, to get something that we can subtract from. Now, to the left, we have another 0. But all we're going to do is borrow 1, okay? So 900, the 90 we're going to borrow from. We can't borrow from 0, so we move over again. So we're going to borrow from 90. 1 from 90 is 89. Okay, and since we borrowed 1, this is in the tens place. So 10 of these equals 1 of these. So the 0 becomes 10. All right, now we can subtract. Watch 1 from 10. We have 9. 7 from 9. We get 2. 8 minus 8, we get 0. And remember, you have to write the 0 in. You can't just leave that spot and move everything over. You've got to have a number there. If it's 0, that's the number. All right? 4 minus 1 is 3. 9 minus 4 is 5. Where do we put the decimal? Again, in subtraction, you line it up just like you do in addition. So your answer is 53.029. Now, let's do a second one. We have 809.144 minus 15.96. Okay, so again, we start with the first number and put it on top. We've got 809.144 minus 15. Remember, we got to line up the decimal. We have to line up the decimal, so we want the 15 under the 09 because that's two digits to the left of the decimal. So the 1 goes under the 0. 15.96. And again, notice I keep the digits underneath the ones, directly underneath the ones above it, that are in the same position relative to the decimal. So one place to the right of the decimal is the 1 in your top number, so the 9 needs to go under the 1. And the same thing with the 6. The 4 in the top number, the first 4 is your second digit to the right of the decimal. So the 6 being the second digit to the right of the decimal in your second number has to go right under it, okay? Now remember the trick. If we have space left on either end, we can add zeros. So we can add zeros there to help us keep up with what is subtracted from what. Alright, now we have digits lined up. We can start subtracting. So 4, remember you always start at the right. 4 minus 0 is 4. 4 minus 6 I can't do. You gotta subtract the bottom number from the top. I cannot subtract 6 from 4, so I have to borrow. Go to one digit to the left, you have a 1, we're gonna make it a 0. That makes the 4 a 14. Alright? 6 from 14 is 8. Alright, now we've got to subtract 9 from 0. We can't. Again, so you have to borrow. People, please, this is so important because this is the most common mistake I see. Is people, when they're subtracting a larger number from a smaller number, they want to flip it. You cannot say 9 minus 6. It has to be 0. It has to be 0 minus 9. I can't do that, so I have to borrow again. We'll borrow from the 9 and make it 8, and that makes this 0, 10. Alright, notice I mark each thing out when I'm changing it. That's so that when I look back, I don't get confused and pull down the wrong number. I see that mistake made on occasion as well. So be careful that you mark your work so that you can tell where you're at. So now I've got 10 minus 9, which is 1. 8 minus 5, which is 3. 0 minus 1, I can't do that. Have to borrow. 8 becomes 7, 0 becomes 10. 10 minus 1 is 9. 7 minus 0 is 7. Go back, where does my decimal go? Lined up with the problem. So here, so it goes here. And that's my final answer. Now on this problem, you had to borrow multiple times. You need to remember that every time you look at a problem and you're having to subtract something, you have got to start at the top and subtract the bottom from the top. Do not flip the numbers. On addition, it wouldn't matter, but on subtraction, it matters. So just get used to never flipping the numbers. Always put the first number first, the second number second, and then subtract or add depending on what it asks you to do. And pay attention. Sometimes you have to go back and forth. So pay attention to what they're asking you to do as well. All right, so here we had to borrow here. Then we had to borrow from this one to get that. We had to borrow again. So keep up with those steps, okay? We're gonna do one more subtraction problem. All right, let's see, we've got 803.309 minus 133.36. All right, so first one first, 803.309. 803.309 minus, okay, same number of digits to the left of the decimal, so I line up with the left-hand side. 133. Now see, that lines up my decimal in the right place. 0.36. 0.36. Okay, again here, my bottom number ends before my top one does, so I'm gonna stick me a 0 out here to help keep up. Okay, so here now we're ready to go ahead and subtract this. So we've got 9 minus 0 is 9. 0 minus 6, remember, bottom from top. I cannot subtract 6 from 0, so I have to borrow. So I'm gonna move over one digit to the left. 3 becomes 2. 0 becomes 10. all right? 10 minus 6 is 4. 2 minus 3, again, I can't do that, all right? The 2 is smaller, so I have to borrow. Come over to my 3, make that one a 2, and that's gonna make this a 12. Notice the 2, you can keep the 2, but you're adding 10 to it, always 10 to it. That's something else I see people doing is they wanna decrease this number. You add 10 to whatever you had, and the number you're borrowing 4. All right, so I've got 12 minus 3 now, which is 9. 2 minus 3, again, I can't do that, so I have to borrow again. But oops, the next number to the left is a 0. I can't borrow from 0, so I go 2 over. I can borrow from 80. If I borrow from 80, it's gonna become 79. All right, now my 2 is gonna become 12. 12 minus 3 is 9. 3 from 9, or 9 minus 3 is 6. 7 minus 1 is 6. Last thing to do is put in my decimal. I line it up with the problem, so it goes right here. So my final answer is 669.949. Okay, I hope that this wasn't too fast for you, but I'm trying to leave the problems up here so that while you're watching this, you do have the power to pause. Okay, so if while you're watching this, you want to copy the problems down, all right, then you can do that. So I'm gonna leave it up here for just another minute to leave that one there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna erase this all and I'm gonna post a couple of things up here. Number one, I'm gonna go back over the little, review the little rules that we stated. Okay, there were just 2 or 3 of them. And then number 2, I'm probably gonna leave you with a couple of practice problems so that if you want to try them and then post your answers, then I will look back at that and make sure that you are doing it correctly. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you a minute, let you copy, make sure I'm out of the way, and sneak a drink of my coffee while you're copying, cause my throat, I'm not used to talking this much anymore. Okay, remember you have the power to pause, so I'm not gonna wait any longer, okay? But I'm gonna erase this real quick, and then we're gonna put up a couple little facts for you to look back at in case you need them. And folks, while I'm doing this, think about this for just a minute. If you have a problem or difficulty with something like decimals, all right, and you understand it when we review it, but then if you have to leave it to do something else, and then it pops up in a different kind of problem, and you're having trouble remembering the rules, it will help you tremendously if you will just get you some note cards. And if you don't have any, and you need some, if you'll let us know, we'll put some out for you out here where you can come by and pick them up. Okay, but note cards can be tremendously helpful. And just fix you a note card that says adding decimals or adding and subtracting decimals. Put the basic rules on there, put you a couple of example problems, and then have that where you can get to it. And just start you a notebook, get you a little ring, something to hold them together, punch a hole in them, whatever you need to do, and start creating you some note cards that will help you with problem areas in your math. You can do this in any area, but I'm telling you it makes a difference. Number one, just the act of writing it down helps to put it back in your head another time, okay? And you have to make it make sense for you. So you're not just copying, and if you won't just copy it, if you will actually read what you're writing, read it before you write it down, read it as you write it down, read it after you write it down, okay? That way you're repeating it 3 more times. That gives you 3 more chances of it actually setting in your mind. And the more you do things like that, the more set in your head it's gonna be, so that you'll get to a point where you won't need the card anymore because it'll pop back into your head. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to do this. Okay, like lining up the decimals, like writing down the first digit first, okay? And that's 2 of the rules that we said. All right, so when adding or subtracting decimals, and adding or subtracting, and I hope you can read my writing, I'm sorry. Okay, first, if the problem is written horizontally. Or in a line. Always write the first number on top. And the second number below it. Okay, second thing, when writing the problem, always line up the decimal. Wherever it is in both numbers. Okay, always line it up by the decimal. Finally, if needed, add zeros before or after the number but never in the middle. Those three things will help you set up your problems. Remember too that you always, one more, I'm sorry. Always, when subtracting, subtract the bottom number from the top. Okay? If you have any questions, remember that you can post them, okay? Or you can check back in with us on summary at the end. Let me give you a couple of practice problems. Let's see, let's do one with addition. Let's do 723.02 plus 48.98, okay, 2. All right, for subtraction, let's do, and I'm gonna write this one horizontally, so you have to rewrite it correctly, okay? We got 767.3 minus 742.46. Okay, there's your couple of practice problems. If you want to try them out and then post your answers, or if you have any problems with it, just let us know. You can send us notes, you can copy it, you can write it out and then post it, okay, to the video, or you can send us a message and stream, any of those different ways. You can email, whatever, okay? But reach out if you have questions. Tomorrow we're going to do another segment on multiplication and division of decimals. I hope this helps you. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.